Welcome to the Growth Boss podcast, where we seek out the secrets to high-performing campaigns from some of the smartest marketers in the world. I'm your host, Jared Smith. Today, I have Joe Davies with me, and he's going to teach us the plan that he's taken to take Fatjoe from zero to over $12 million per year in revenue. Joe is the co-founder and CEO of Fatjoe, which is a leading productized SEO platform that's delivered over 200,000 campaigns since 2012. He's built a business around making SEO simple with clear pricing and a streamlined system where clients can just click order and get the results they're looking for. I'm really excited to have him on today. I've been an admirer of him and his company for a long time. Joe, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for the intro.
Absolutely. So Joe, let's start at the beginning. What was the original inspiration for Fatjoe? And I have to ask about the name. Obviously, you're not a bigger dude. So maybe we start there. Where did the name come from?
Yeah. So when we started, we didn't actually think it was going to be, as much of a success as it was. So we weren't really too focused on the name, and I think we were looking through a book of, maybe it weren't a book, maybe it's an article online of gangster names. So we had like Fat Tony. One of them was Fat Joe, and me and co-founder were both called Joe. And we were kind of fed up with all the companies back then were called like really boring names like SEO solutions and link building solutions and just really boring names. So we were kind of fed up with that. So we thought, you know what, we're just going to call it Fat Joe and see what happens. And it kind of stands out a bit in a sea of boring names. So we're glad we did in the end.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. And so you and your partner, I believe, met at another agency. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we were both working at a traditional SEO agency, and I was doing delivery. So I was head of SEO and he was doing sales. So he was head of sales basically. And we kind of, we had a lot to do with each other there. So we knew the problems of both sales and delivery.
Awesome. And so at some point you guys like, listen, we can do this, maybe better than even the company we're at. What was that kind of like pain point or that sticking point where you were like, hey, why don't we just go off and do this ourselves?
Yeah. So, we didn't really have a problem with the agency we were at. We were kind of delivering things well and selling things well. But what we had a problem with was the vendors and suppliers that we were using to fulfill our campaigns. So many agencies do this, and, it's becoming ever increasingly popular that you won't build a big in-house team. You'll have a lean in-house team, and then you'll outsource some or maybe all of your deliverables, such as link building content, to external freelancers, contractors, vendors. So we were doing that back in 2010, 2011. There just wasn't much choice. So there was either very low quality, inconsistent. They would be very ad hoc. So they'd send you some reports on spreadsheets. Other reports would be in emails. It was very hard to manage. So we were kind of looking for a solution. We wanted like the Amazon of link building. We want to be able to go on, click what we want, click the options, get it back fast, get it back in a nice report without any back and forth phone calls. We hate phone calls. That was one of the big things that we didn't want to do when we started Fatjoe. But yeah, we had all these pain points with vendors rather than with the agency we were at.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So from what I remember, you guys started with guest posts. Is that correct?
Well, actually, we did start with something a little bit more, all the old school SEOs will remember, like link pyramids and link wheels. So we actually started with that.
Okay.
Start. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. And so at some point, you guys kind of went down the guest post path. And I think that was like the main thing for a little while. Is that correct?
Yeah. We think we industrialized it. I think we kind of made it so we could do it at scale. Mm-hmm. So we kind of was one of the first suppliers that did it at scale.
And so what were some of the main sticking points with scaling guest posting? Again, this is before really any other company had done it. So I'm really curious how you were able to take something that was very niche, very personalized at that time and turn it into something that was very productized.
Yeah, so I think the key with the productization with guest posting was all the other guest posting providers were doing reactive outreach. So they would get an order, say from an automotive company, car insurance company or something. Then they'd go out and outreach to car blogs. It would take them a long time. They'd get a lot of rejections. They'd get some accepted. They would have to go back to the client and say, can you give us a bit more time? This was the experience we had. So we thought we flipped it on its head and we did proactive outreach. So instead of us waiting for the order, we were just outreaching to every single blog in the world saying, do you want to at some point do some collaboration? And everyone that said yes, we put them on a list. We agreed an agreement. And when we got the orders coming in, we then already had this partner that's already said yes. So the turnaround was really fast. The process was really fast. We were leaving out spreadsheets at the start, Google Sheets, but it was kind of very processed with writers in there as well. So we could get things done really fast. But I think the key was proactive outreach rather than reactive.
And so what point did you guys determine, hey, I think we should expand outside of the guest post realm and kind of go more services under the SEO umbrella? Walk me through what that decision looked like as a company.
So when we started the company, we were kind of thinking, link building, we don't know how long that's going to last. We don't know how much of an industry, it is in the long term. Obviously, it's still going today, and obviously, it transcends kind of SEO as well. It's kind of like relationship building, brand building. But at the time, we were kind of thinking we want to de-risk, and we don't want to have just one service. We don't want to have just one product or one SKU. So we just thought about the other things that agencies need, and that was like things like video, content writing, press releases. Video, we eventually went into some design services like infographic design. We then went into like digital PR, some more higher ticket services, and now we're finally doing AI SEO services. So we're kind of, whatever SEO companies need that we can productize, we're definitely on the case, we're going to sell it.
Yeah. What do you feel like have been some of the biggest challenges in more recent years? Let's say the last 5 years or so. Obviously, you guys have been around for a little while, but in the last 5 years, what have been some of the bigger challenges that you guys have had to tackle?
I think there's always something on the horizon with SEO, right? And with SEO, you can never kind of relax because there's always, whether it's a Google update or whether it's AI is coming out with a new way that people search. So, we can't really rely on the 10 blue links anymore. So we've had lots of that stuff over the years. I'd say the biggest challenge over the last 5 years, was that the question? Yeah, the last 5 years?
Yeah, last five, or so.
I'd say one of them, probably up there in the top three, would be the new format of searching, which is AI SEO, which has been very recent, really, past couple of years. So that really throws people off. It gets people quite scared. A lot of our clients are actually SEO agencies rather than end clients. So we feel the ripple effects of them being a little bit, do we build links still, or do we just wait for AI to pick up our client's site? So we've had to do a lot of education with those clients. Whatever happens in the industry, there's always a pivot, and there's always a way to cater for our clients and our clients' clients. So we always come out of it quite well.
Awesome. And where do you feel like some of the keys to success are with AI SEO right now? Again, obviously, probably the hottest topic in the industry. What, you guys have the ability to do a ton of testing, a lot of research and development, obviously, before you launch a new service. So what have you guys learned in that process?
Yeah, so we did loads of testing for AI SEO. When it was kind of emerging that AI SEO was going to be, a separate thing to SEO and link building, we were quite excited because we thought, well, we've got the kind of mechanisms to do this and scale this, the same as we did with guest posting. So what we found was, and everyone kind of knows this now, is that AI is mostly about ranking well. So 80% of it is, if you're ranking well, you're going to get shown in AI recommendations. But the next part of it is you need to be in listicles, and you need to be recommended by blogs and by media sites, even in Reddit, in forums and things like that. But it's not just being mentioned, it's about having a USP or a context to do your brand. So you don't just want to be the best CRM, you want to be the best CRM for small businesses, or the best CRM for the most features, or the best budget CRM. You want to be known as something, because AI just doesn't give 10 options. It says, this is good if you like this is good if you like this. And quite often ChatGPT and all the other AI tools, they know a lot about the person that's asking the question. So if they know the person asking the question likes a lot of integrations, they're going to show the CRM with the most integrations. But it will only show if AI knows this. So you've kind of got to feed the machine, and you've got to have this all over your website, all over everyone else's website, all over forums, reviews. So we have got services which cater for this, and it's kind of like the surgical side of it. We think you should do real marketing. Like, we're not against, everyone just doing real mark and doing things the proper way, but there is space to do things a little bit supplementary, where you go out there, put yourself on listicles, you put yourself in Reddit and forums. I think there's a space to do that to compete in the market.
Yeah, agreed. That's awesome. Now, as somebody who's worked with a lot of SEO agencies, again, if I remember looking at your website, you guys have worked with tens of thousands of agencies. What's the total number of agencies approximately you guys have worked with?
I think someone checked it last, and I think it's well over 10,000, maybe 20,000. There's a lot.
Yeah.
You can include maybe consultants and freelancers in that as well, because some people put themselves as an agency, even if they're just a one-man band. But yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Over the 12 years, yeah.
So what would you say are the top things that the most successful agencies are doing right? And again, you kind of have the backdoor view
Yep.
for what they're doing. What are these top like 1% agencies actually doing?
Yeah, so some of our biggest clients actually keep things really simple. And I think where agencies succeed or fail is less about, I mean, this sounds quite bad, but it's less about the results they're getting for their clients and it's more about their own operations, because some agencies can get great results for their clients, but they can run terrible businesses. And, they hire too many staff. They spend way too much on deliverables. They're not really stable, even though they could be getting great results, but they won't kind of last as a business. So the best business we've seen, they keep their operations really lean. They keep really small in-house team. The stuff that you can't outsource is sales and account management. Those are the two things you can't outsource. So they have a team of just those. And then for all the deliverables of their retainers or contracts they've got with clients, they'll outsource that to companies like Fatjoe, or they outsource it to freelancers. And the reason why that's a powerful position to be in is because if there's an economic storm or an industry storm, they can weather that because they've got a small team. They haven't got to let people go. They haven't got all these people on payroll. If clients leave, it doesn't really matter to them because the costs of that client is mostly in deliverables, and that's scalable cost if they outsource it. So the best agencies that I know are the ones that are kind of like earning the most. I know they're earning the most because they're spending the most with us. They have a really lean team, and we speak to them personally now and then, and they've got a lean team and they love that model. And generally, in terms of doing things for their clients, they're doing like really simple things. So less is more always. We see a lot of, I mean, we don't complain when clients spend a lot with us and they spend a hell of a lot with a client, but we often email them and say, hey, this is probably a bit too much. Like the clients we see doing, the agencies we see doing really, really well for their clients are doing a lot less, and they're relying on real marketing, getting their client in real media outlets by real marketing and doing social media and that kind of thing, more of a holistic approach. And the link building side is a supplementary, it's a tiny thing that goes on in the background that they don't really think about that much. They just outsource it to a company like us and it's just done. It's just done and dusted. So yeah, the ones that are doing less in terms of operations and in terms of SEO are doing the best, I think.
Okay. And why do you feel that Fatjoe succeeded, got to 8 figures when so few SEO companies do?
I think it's probably to do with having this lean operations and being kind of anti-fragile. With SEO, you've kind of got to do it more. You're not selling cloves or crisps. It's literally you're selling something that relies on so many different things, or you're relying on someone else's algorithm for a start. So it's quite fragile. So I think us staying lean, I mean, we've only got 15 to 16 lean core people in our core team. The rest is freelancer network that we plug into our system. So we're really lean. Like we don't mind if there's a recession. We don't mind if everyone's scared about AI. We don't mind if there's a Google update because we can weather that storm. So I think it was more about staying lean and keeping things simple as well. We don't complicate anything. We try and keep everything really simple, like in terms of blogger outreach, in terms of every service that we sell. It's like there's a few options and you buy it or you don't. That's it really.
And approximately how many freelancers would you say you guys are working with that you have kind of working for you?
So in terms of writers, we have about 100 writers that are full-time with us. They work with us on most link building services because most link building actually involves a lot of writing these days. And they actually work with us on our content writing services as well. But then we do have maybe 10 or so video and audio guys. We have some people doing digital PR outreach to journalists. We have 10, 15 people doing outreach to bloggers. So there's quite a big network there. There's not to mention all the publishers that we work with, which is in the, it can be anywhere between 10 to 20,000 publishers that we're in contact with at any time. So quite a big network.
Yeah, that's huge. And I'm curious, so for the content writers, are they just spitting out AI content? Are they writing all human content, or is it kind of a mix of the two? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we've been very strict on human content at the moment. We want all of our writers to be writing human content. We want them to be using their brain, because I don't mind AI content. I'm not like totally against it. I think, in some cases it can be better than a human written content. It's just our clients are very wary of it. So they don't like it. And also our clients kind of look at it, and people can spot AI from a mile away now. They can kind of like tell the sentences and stuff. They just don't like it. So whilst it would be great for us to kind of like save some money on operations, save some money on writers, we just haven't took the leap yet, because we think there's going to be a big we're going to have to educate our clients a little bit on it, and we're going to have to be very careful with how much AI is used or how little AI is used. So we've not integrated it so far in writing, but it's on the roadmap.
Yeah. Okay. Now, as somebody who's worked with a lot of freelancers, what are some tips that you would share? I mean, how do you vet the freelancers? How do you hold them accountable? How do you check their work? What are some things that you guys have learned over the years? I'm sure you've worked with again, probably up to thousands at this point, freelancers. You guys have learned a lot. What are the kind of the core lessons there?
Yeah. So from hiring, really, it's all down to putting out the biggest net you can to hire, to find the right people. So what we do is we put out the biggest net we can, which is we put the job ad on every job ad site we can find, and we use a form, like a structured form, to basically get the applications in. Usually within the form there'll be some kind of validation or some kind of test to see if they've read the application, because these days you're going to get loads of ChatGPT applications. So if you put something there, what's your favorite fruit and what's the current month, something like that. These days, even AI can answer that. So you have to be even a bit. And AI's favorite fruit is mango, if anyone wants to know that.
There you go.
But yeah, you can put in stuff like that. For more higher positions these days, we're using a Loom video. So we're asking them to upload a Loom video. That cuts out 75% of applicants. Like, they just don't want to upload a Loom video. And we think, well, that's great. We've only got now 25% to look at. Once they pass the kind of like initial application, we give them a week trial, and that's with some very strict training. If they pass the week trial, then we onboard them into our system. We have a very decentralized way of managing all freelancers, because there's so many of them. We can't have managers, or we can't have a hub and spoke kind of approach. We have to kind of like let them input their work into the system, and then we have a QC layer which randomly checks from every person in the freelancer network, because we couldn't do every person and every single unit of work. It just wouldn't be possible. So we randomly check it, and then we pull up any mistakes, and then we kind of like rectify those mistakes. And then the freelancer starts to understand where he's going wrong or where she's going wrong. And besides from that, we try and keep the freelancers happy by giving them regular work. Where I see other agencies go wrong is they'll find a good freelancer, but they'll only give them work sporadically. So the freelancer doesn't really, they don't really prioritize it for that agency. So once we find a freelancer, our system kind of like makes it so they definitely get a full day of work every day. And that keeps them really happy and keeps them kind of prioritized to our work.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. I want to share some of the details of a LinkedIn post that you published a couple of months ago, where you outlined like the top 10 things that you're thinking about for the next 5 years, kind of your core plans. But these are like really great things. You're talking about doubling down on your target market. You're talking about productizing the impossible and investing into your technology. It's like, this is really good strategic kind of planning, strategic thinking post. I want to ask specific questions about it, but before I do, I'm curious, like, how much time are you thinking about the business as, from a strategic standpoint? You're thinking about, working on the business, working in the business, as a CEO, how much time does that take up, either like on a weekly or monthly, quarterly? How do you look at strategic planning?
Yeah, so at least once a quarter, I have a kind of meeting with myself, and we kind of look at the goals that we set for the year, and then if we need to change the next quarter based on, what's been going on. And usually there's a lot of changes. Everything that you set at the start of the year, like the yearly plan's the big one, but then at least once a quarter, I just go through and I kind of assess where we're at, and then assess where we need to go in the future. Don't really plan more than a year ahead, like really, really like specific projects. Like there can be some ambiguous kind of direction where we go in past the year, but the year ahead, we normally have maybe 4 big projects, like one for every quarter, and then maybe 2 or 3 minor projects. But those projects might span across products that we want to sell. So it might be new products, it might be developments to the system, because we've got quite an advanced system now, which there's still lots of stuff we can do that would make it more advanced for clients, for our admin team, for vendors, things we want to do in terms of staff and new hires that we want to make, and then just general marketing stuff like expos we want to go to or new channels we want to run. If we want to do something new with YouTube, or we want to do some podcasts or things like that. So I plan those kind of things. So yeah, probably one big planning session every year, then once every quarter, it will be an assessment and maybe like a refocus on that. But I'm quite lucky to have a team that handles most of the day-to-day, including like an operations who has been with us from the start of the business. So all those kind of like, I'm protected from the day-to-day stuff. So I've got time to kind of look at that stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome. And of those 10 things, like which ones are the ones where you think will have maybe the biggest impact? I'm also curious just from like a difficulty level, which one you feel is going to be the most challenging, and if there's an overlap between the ones that are most challenging and the ones that will actually provide the biggest bump in revenue growth, whatever it is that's kind of the core KPI you guys are going after.
So I think one of the biggest ones, I think one of the things on there was to productize the impossible. One of the areas we want to go into is looking at more end brands that want to use Fatjoe. So right now we've been highly focused on agencies and we've kind of disregarded brands as a market. But there are a lot of smart brands out there with big marketing teams that are savvy enough to use Fatjoe. So we want to cater for those. What we understand from brands is they don't want to kind of deal with the nitty gritty, ordering in individual services, individual links, looking at DR, looking at traffic. They're kind of a step removed from that, and they want to just go, can you just handle everything for me? I understand what link building is, I understand what content is, I understand what digital PR is, but can you just handle it all for me? So we're building almost packages is the right word, packages which involve different recipes of services where we will, on their behalf, order from Fatjoe for them. So it's kind of like a meta service. So we're hoping that that's going to cater a lot for these brands. And yeah, that's the one that I really want to focus on over the next 1 or 2 years, maybe. I think we can do that. But yeah, I think it will be quite difficult just because of the market is a lot different to what we're used to. But I think it's definitely possible.
Yeah. Absolutely. And where do you see SEO going in the next 2, 3, 5 years? Obviously, ChatGPT is growing. Ironically, I had 2 podcasts last week with other guys that kind of specialize in the LLM optimization, and both of them were betting that Google will end up winning this battle, that people will stay on Google. They've got the brand, that Google will just figure out a way to win. I'm curious what your thoughts are on kind of Google versus ChatGPT, obviously all the other LLMs as well, but also just where things go from here. I mean, do you envision SEO being these small iterations kind of as it's been for the last 20 years, or do you think there's going to be something big that shakes it up?
It's quite hard to say. I mean, I kind of want to stay realistic because, when these things happen, the SEO community has a way of kind of like making it so explosive and it's going to change everything and SEO is dead and ChatGPT is going to take over. I think ChatGPT is going to make its way into the market more and more. And I see, my girlfriend using it, my mom using it, but they're using it for different things, what they was using Google for. So it's kind of like, I saw a post the other day, someone said, I use Google to find things and then I use ChatGPT to learn things, like to know things. So it's kind of like people are using it slightly differently. But even so, like, let's just say ChatGPT is another search engine that's just taking up a bit of market. That's fine. ChatGPT is still recommending brands and products. Those brands and products have still got to be recommended from an algorithm. That algorithm can be learned and and for the not so white hat, it can be manipulated. And for the white hat, it can be, oh, okay, the algorithm's looking for this. Let's use that to our advantage and let's do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So I think while there is information, which there will always be information, there will be a need to categorize it and sort it in some kind of order. So whilst that is a key, there'll always be optimization. So there'll always be search engine optimization in some form, whether it's Google, ChatGPT. So I don't know exactly where it will end up, but I know that there'll always be an interface and I know there'll always be options that us SEOs can figure out a way to optimize for. So for that reason, I'm kind of never worried about our position in the market. I think what it will look like in the future is more and more like marketing. Mm-hmm. So we kind of had in the 90s, we kind of had this really binary way of optimizing websites, adding the keyword to the page, sometimes adding the keyword loads of times, adding it in white text. There's these binary hacks to kind of get it to the top. Yeah. As we move further into like today, just you zoom out and you go, oh, you've just got to be a good company. Mm-hmm. You just got to get talked about a lot. You got to get good reviews, and then your SEO kind of sorts itself out. So,
agreed.
You zoom out and it's kind of like, it looks like marketing. So I think we'll start getting strategies which are a bit more holistic.
I love that. One of the things I was telling my wife recently is I was like, with Google, I felt like you could manipulate your way to the top, whether it was a good company or a bad company, which I never liked. Obviously, I never wanted to work for a company I didn't believe in, but it was certainly feasible for an SEO to get out there, and they could be a horrible company, but if a good SEO got a hold of the campaign, they could make them rank number one. I said, I don't see that as frequently with ChatGPT. Like you see, in fact, one of the missions that we had at my last agency was we want to help the good guys win. And I was like, I see that with ChatGPT, like the legitimate good companies that should be winning are winning with ChatGPT just naturally. Like ChatGPT does a really good job of kind of deciphering that. So that's been a pleasant surprise. I want to dig a little bit on the personal side of running a company. I'm curious about the bigger challenges that you faced kind of early on in your CEO journey. And then I want to kind of, look at some of the things that you're looking for to the future on a personal level, looking to develop yourself. But let's start, those first 5-7 years. What were some of the challenges that you personally had as a CEO? How did you overcome those?
Yeah, so I think obviously that there's lots of challenges every day. It's just non-stop challenges. But I think one of the biggest ones when starting is you're kind of like scrambling around trying to build systems because, you've got these orders coming in and you've got sales if you're lucky, but then you haven't really got a way to deliver them. So it's scrambling around trying to find systems. So one of the biggest challenges in the first 2-3 years was getting out of Google Sheets and getting into a system that could be scaled and it could run the company without the chaos.
Yeah.
Then obviously there's hiring issues, finding the right people. In the early days, it's very essential. We have to find people that we can trust, and they have to trust us too. As a young company, it's like, why would I trust you two guys? You're just two kids that are saying you're going to start a company called Fatjoe. Why would I trust you? So it was quite hard, but we found a really good team early on, and a lot of them are still with us today. And in recent years now, I think the struggle is you get kind of like better problems, I think, but the struggle is still trying to find those good team members, trying to get to the next level. What got us from like 0 to 10 mil is definitely what's not going to get us from 10 to 20. It's kind of like we kind of thought, if we keep giving Google ads £1, it's going to keep giving us back £3 or £5. Mm-hmm. So we'll just keep giving it more and more money. But at some point it flattens out and you're kind of like, we've reached everyone. So then you kind of think, well, where are all the other SEO agencies hanging out? Where are all the other clients hanging out? You've got to try meta ads. You've got to try expos. We've got to try and do like outbound sales, which we don't really feel good about, but we might try that. So I think the problem that I'm facing now is where do we go from here? And also it's kind of like, who do I ask who's going to help me with that as well? Because it's kind of like, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room here. I want to hire someone who's done that before. So it's kind of those kind of challenges.
Yeah, love it. Joe, this has been such a pleasure. So many good nuggets in here. I've really enjoyed this conversation. For those who want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you just search for Joe Davies, you can go to joedavies.com or you can go to fatjoe.com and you can contact there.
Amazing. Thanks so much again for your time.
No worries, mate. Thank you.